Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at another portable monitor. This one from WIMAXIT is a 14-inch model that you can then connect to any smartphone, any laptop, and improve the multitasking experience when on the road. The monitor itself is thin. It's also a touchscreen version, so supports 10 fingers for multi-touch gestures, and I think really it's the design here that makes it a little bit more distinctive compared to other budget models that are under $200 that we've seen in the past, which had kind of that folio case design. This one has a kickstand which is built directly into the monitor, similar to a Surface. It allows you to prop it up at a variety of angles flexibly. And aside from the typical devices, you can also connect it to portable consoles like a Switch to get you just a larger screen when on the road, supporting both orientations in terms of that kickstand design. Just makes it look a little more clean and modern. Just like many other variants, doesn't have a built-in battery of its own, so it'll be driven from your phone or your computer using Type-C, or you can connect it to a power bank when on the road. The device here is using a 1080p resolution IPS LCD display, which is pretty expected for this price range. There are other models, including using OLED or using QLED technology, that will definitely be more expensive. And again, there's also models that we've seen that have started to adopt, let's say, 2K or 4K resolution. But to be honest, that's kind of overkill on a monitor of this size. Full HD, I think, strikes a very good balance in terms of good enough in terms of sharpness levels and also making the cost significantly cheaper. Other accessories here include just a quick user guide. You also have an included Type-C cable that supports video output and charging. There's another Type-C cable just if you want to connect it to a USB Type-A for power delivery. There's a quick wiping cloth to remove any dust or lint, and there is also a micro HDMI to a full-sized HDMI connector. Taking a closer look at the design, it does indeed have very slim bezels, a slightly larger chin at the bottom here, but not too bad. One thing to note here is it doesn't come with really a case anymore in the box, so in order to protect the screen, you might want to use your own sleeve before putting it into a backpack, for instance. Otherwise, though, it's very well built because the entire thing on the back is made out of aluminum alloy, so it's cold to the touch, similar to what a MacBook or a Surface would be made out of. So very good build, nothing is plasticky at all, and indeed super slim in terms of the profile, despite everything being made of this unibody chunk of metal, along with having a touchscreen. And one thing to note here is even though this is a touchscreen, it is still a matte display, as you can see there, as opposed to being glossy. So it tries to prevent fingerprints and smudges quite as easily. You can kind of stop the kickstand and it will work its magic, so you can also further pop the display backwards. It is, again, just extremely versatile in terms of all the positions. Pretty much it's able to hold the weight of this monitor really without any problems. This kickstand is pretty well constructed and is indeed very stiff. It even goes all the way almost completely flat in terms of the angle, almost 180 degrees that you're able to tilt, and it still holds its weight. Now on the side here, once you fold open the kickstand, you have access to the Type-C port, one for power, one for video, the other one which is designed for the micro HDMI port. Again, there is no full-sized HDMI port though, so that is one thing to keep in mind because of how slim this monitor is. The other side houses a 3.5mm headphone jack, although there are stereo speakers built on in, but of course to get you the best quality, since this thing is so small, you would probably want to connect to external speakers or headphones. There's also a volume dial, and you can use this to navigate some of the menus on the display for changing properties like brightness levels and contrast, and a little bit of branding info that this also supports HDR for higher contrast levels as well. And if we look very closely, the front frame also has this interesting texture like micro dots which are embedded onto the sides. Just makes it a little bit more shiny and interesting looking from an aesthetic point of view, but overall very well built with these chamfered aluminum edges. And here we have it plugged using Type-C directly into a laptop, and it's working perfectly fine in terms of driving power, as well as the aforementioned touch input is all being registered really without any problems. It's quite a responsive touchscreen. Here is a quick drawing app, in fact, that we can use to scribble along, and you can see that multi-touch gestures work exactly as expected, looking quite good in terms of contrast, and the image does still look decent even as you rotate the display at various angles, as you can see there. Now in terms of brightness levels, I would say it's also decent, but as a IPS LCD screen, it's never going to be quite as bright as a OLED or AMOLED panel. Right now it's still doing a reasonably good job, but if you're in outdoor conditions with sunlight hitting directly on it, it may struggle a little bit more, but the matte finish definitely is also trying to help a little bit in terms of not making it quite as difficult to see. This particular display does not have a built-in gyroscope or accelerometer, so you would have to flip the screen yourself by going into advanced settings. But regardless, you get the idea. You're able to now have a much larger, more comfortable experience, especially if you're working on the road in a coffee shop. This thing is so slim that it doesn't add too much to your travel. Now going over into some of the advanced settings in terms of options that we can adjust include the aforementioned brightness. Right now we are pretty much at the maximum already. We can also change properties such as contrast, color temperature, RGB yourself, as well as the positioning of the different context menus. There's also an equalizer here for games that you're able to further change. For instance, right now we're in the standard mode, but I can also bump it up into an RTS mode that makes everything just a little bit more vibrant. Now one note here is all of these context menus are actually baked directly using, again, the controls that you have with the toggle on the side, which can be a little bit tough to press at times. So I do wish that they could make these controls touch sensitive like a few other competitors we've seen in the past. I think that would make the overall process of adjusting those menus a little more intuitive, but it is what it is. And there we go. So overall, I would say that the sound quality is just so-so. In fact, it's a little on the quiet side, considering that we're almost at maximum already. So of course, if you want a more immersive experience, definitely plug in your own headphones to improve that. Luckily, the picture quality itself is at least very contrasty and quite a beautiful image, to be honest. Plenty of detail, and with wide viewing angles for an IPS display means that you can definitely enjoy content with this widescreen 16:9 aspect ratio, really without any issues. So things like watching back videos, checking out spreadsheets, it all becomes quite immersive. Here's an example of a spreadsheet on this particular display, also working just fine when it comes to interacting with content, everything becoming legible, as well as say if we want to try out a web page, we can also see how that looks. Again, very contrasty, colors do look quite impressive, and plenty of detail here for doing things like reading, and still having a pretty immersive experience. I think the biggest impact here would be if you're also connecting it to a smartphone. A lot of devices these days from Samsung, Huawei, among other competitors, have a desktop mode. So if you connect it to a larger screen, it will try to transform into a pseudo computer experience. Even Windows smartphones from back in the day, again, had this functionality through Continuum. So you're able to, again, be able to control everything and use your phone almost like a mini computer and still have a pretty immersive overall experience for work and for play alike. So that is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of this WIMAXIT 14-inch touchscreen portable monitor. Again, these portable displays have been around for a couple of years now. We've seen many generations, but more than anything, I think this one is just presenting a slightly more in-between form factor, not quite as large as the 15.6-inch panel, but also a little bit more spacious than some of the 12 and 13-inch sizes, which have been more popular in the past. And it's all wrapped in a very solid build quality, quite versatile in terms of the different angles that you're able to position it at. It can still hold the weight, easy to take with you when on the road, monitor for laptops, phones, and consoles alike. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.